As I'm sure you've probably heard, Brandon Aiyuk, the star wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, has officially requested a trade.
A mishandling of this situation could have repercussions that will reverberate forever.
And in today's video, I go over how likely this is and what teams he would get traded to. To start things off, how likely is it? And I'm going to put it maybe 50-50 whether he gets traded or not. Now, the San Francisco 49ers do have a lot of motivations to keep him there because he's the young, deep threat wide receiver who, you want to keep, especially when your team can win the Super Bowl like the 49ers can. However, over the past 5 years, we have seen a bunch of very highly talented wide receivers get traded. And this includes wide receivers much better than Aiyuk, such as Tyreek Hill getting traded to the Dolphins for a boatload of picks. But as we all know, he's not that good. So what is a more realistic comparison? And there actually are some. It is AJ Brown to the Eagles, and when the Bills traded for Stephon Diggs. So far in Aiyuk's career, he is 4 years in. Each year he has caught more yards than the year before. Started at 750, then 820. In year 3 he crossed 1,000, and then last year he crossed 1,300 receiving yards. The first comparison of Diggs had started at 700 yards his rookie year and then worked his way up to about 1,100 receiving yards before he then got traded to the Bills. And the amount of touchdowns was about the same too, with about 6 to 8 touchdowns per year. But there is one difference in the Diggs trade, and that is that he already had his new contract, so the team trading for him then wouldn't have to pay him a big contract. That was already settled. So knowing this, Diggs went for the number 22 overall pick, a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, and another 4th round pick of the next year. So that's a lot of compensation. That might be the first picture at what the 49ers would get. Now, in my opinion, the better example is AJ Brown. So AJ Brown started his career off, his first 3 years with Tennessee. He got about 1,000 yards the first 2 years, was a really good wide receiver. And then in his 3rd year, he had about 900 yards, but he missed 3 games with injury. So after this, he had proven that he was good, but just like Aiyuk, the Titans didn't want to give him a contract, so they traded him. And in this trade, the Eagles traded their 1st round pick, which was the 18th overall pick, and their 4th round pick, or the 101st overall pick.
It was all an act, Jerry. They conned us and they scored big time.
And in addition, they had to give AJ Brown a top of the market 4-year, $100 million contract, which was, it was up there at the time. So to me, AJ Brown, Aiyuk, it's a very similar situation. So it would be about a 1st round pick plus maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick, depending on the team trading, because of course, if the team is good, then the 1st round pick is worse than if the team is bad. Okay, so now to the real good part of the video. Where do I think he will go? And I have 5 leading teams to trade for him. The first one is the New England Patriots. As I'm sure you know, this is not the Tom Brady Patriots. This is the May Patriots. And, I don't know. Not a very promising team this year. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. But they do have a lot of cap space with $41 million remaining this year. So they're leading the league in cap space, so they could afford to give him a contract.
Money talks.
And with a rookie quarterback, you want to give him some weapons. And quite frankly, they just don't have any. I mean, it's just about as bad as you could imagine. They do have Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, but as far as wide receivers go, they have Jalen Reagor and Juju Smith-Schuster. So they could definitely use some help here. But it might not be like the Patriots to make a big trade for a wide receiver. Then number 2 is the Washington Commanders. So there's been a lot of smoke about this trade happening. There's been lots of talk from Aiyuk watching Washington game film and such, but I don't know exactly how much sense it makes. But there's been enough smoke, they have to be in my top 5. They do have, of course, a rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who could use as many weapons as he could get. But there's one thing. They actually have wide receiver weapons. They have Terry McLaurin, a very good wide receiver, and they have Dotson, a promising young wide receiver. So trading for Aiyuk, well, one, would make their wide receiver room a very deadly wide receiver room in, a surprising team of Washington. But do they want to invest all that money, all that draft capital into the wide receivers when you have other weaknesses around the team, such as offensive line? But with the smoke coming from Aiyuk, from Washington, they are a legitimate team that could make this trade. They could make a big splash, especially with the new ownership group wanting to show that they can do things to win. Up next is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is another team that really needs some help at the wide receiver. They have George Pickens and Roman Wilson. They did just draft, but essentially they have George Pickens, a unproven, talented wide receiver in George Pickens. But they got rid of Deontay Johnson, and the Steelers have not exactly been known for having a potent offense the past few years, getting, maybe one passing touchdown every other game. It seems like under the Canada offense. Maybe with the new offense coordinator, they'll set fire. Maybe with Russell Wilson taking charge, a formerly seen as Hall of Fame quarterback, who knows, he could light it up. But there has been a lot of smoke that the Steelers will trade for a top-tier wide receiver to bolster their room, and Aiyuk seems to be the most available at the moment. It's not like they're going to be able to trade for Higgins from the Bengals. So if they're willing to do it, it would be a really good fit. It could put George Pickens as a prominent number 2 wide receiver, slot in Aiyuk as the dominant number 1, and it will help the offense become at least average in the NFL to help out their good defense. Up next is the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. I'm sure when you think of the Bills, you think of a really good passing game with Stephon Diggs. However, as I'm sure we all know, he's gone. He's with the Texans. They're hoarding wide receivers over there. And Diggs was just making a lot of drama. They just didn't want him anymore. But looking at the wide receivers on the Bills, there just aren't anyone. There's no number 1. And there's a few maybe number 2s or number 3s. They do have 2 good tight ends. They do have a good running back. But they're missing an all-star wide receiver. Really, they're just missing a wide receiver 1 in general. Curtis Samuel does not make it to wide receiver 1 rankings in my book. So if they're willing to go all in, once again, it's not a bad move. But since it's a talented team, they're probably going to have to pay more because there's no chance the Bills are under pick maybe 20 or so. So their first round pick, not quite as valuable. Another difficulty here is that the Bills don't actually have that much cap space, so they would have to probably make some changes or play with the cap in order to sign him to a long-term contract. And then the final team that I'm going to talk about, another team with a very talented quarterback and no wide receivers, and man, it does seem like there's a bunch of those teams this year. But that is the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, and nobody. If you're thinking of Chargers wide receivers or running backs, you are probably thinking of players who were on the team last year, such as Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, or Williams. But looking at the roster today, if you haven't yet, it's a little scary. At running back, they have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. I guess they just liked the Ravens running back room. At wide receiver, here's their starting 3. Joshua Palmer, who I would consider a really good wide receiver 3, what he was last year. Then Quentin Johnston, who was the rookie they picked last year, who was very bad. And then Ladd McConkey, a rookie from this year and not even a first-round pick. So you have Justin Herbert. You have some talented players on the offensive side of the ball. You have some talented players on the defensive side of the ball. But you don't have a good tight end. You don't have a good wide receiver, and you don't have a good running back, or at least not a proven one. So you could definitely use a star wide receiver such as Aiyuk. So that has to put him up there. Especially with the new coach, maybe they're willing to try some new things. So those are my top 5 teams that would trade for him. Of course, there's a lot of other teams out there where he would fit, such as, I don't know, maybe the Panthers. But if you're the Panthers, you're not going to trade your first round pick when that could very easily be the number 1 overall pick. So anyways, I hope you liked the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. As a reminder, I'm planning on doing videos every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll see you later.